The day Earth changed forever started like any other at NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Station. Mary Collins sipped her coffee as she watched the screens tracking humanity's farthest probe, Pioneer 13. The probe had passed beyond Pluto's orbit, months ago, venturing into the dark space where no human creation had gone before. Mary almost missed it, a tiny blip on her radar, moving too fast and too purposefully to be space debris. She sat up straight, coffee forgotten. "Steve, are you seeing this?" she called to her colleague. Steve Baker leaned over her shoulder, his eyes widening. "That's not natural. It's changing course to intercept Pioneer." Within hours, every major government knew. Within days, the entire planet was aware. We were not alone. The object that had intercepted Pioneer 13 was a scout ship from the Varaxians, an alien species that served as scouts for something called the Galactic Council. After centuries of wondering if intelligent life existed beyond Earth, humanity had its answer in the form of tall, blue-skinned beings with forearms and entirely too many teeth. 3 months after first contact, Earth's United Nations hastily assembled a diplomatic team. Dr. Olivia Grant led the delegation. At 42, she was the world's foremost expert in theoretical xenolinguistics, a field that had been purely theoretical until now. "I still can't believe they speak English," said Commander Jack Nelson, as he strapped into his seat aboard the USS Pathfinder, Earth's most advanced spaceship, now retrofitted with alien technology to make the journey possible. Olivia smiled. "They don't. Their translation devices are just that good. They've encountered thousands of languages across the galaxy." The Pathfinder hummed to life. It would be the first human vessel to travel faster than light, using a slipgate the Varaxians had towed into Earth's orbit. "How are you feeling, Commander?" asked Olivia, noting his tight grip on the armrests. "Like a caveman about to board a rocket ship," Jack replied with a nervous laugh. "We're so out of our depth here." The crew of 25 humans included scientists, diplomats, and military personnel. None felt prepared for what was coming, but humanity had no choice. The Galactic Council had extended an invitation, and declining wasn't an option. The journey through the slipgate felt like being turned inside out, and then right side in again in less than a second. When they emerged, the view took their breath away. The Centauri Nexus hung in space before them, a massive structure shaped like an 8-pointed star, each arm stretching for miles. Ships of all shapes and sizes buzzed around it like bees, around a hive. "My God," whispered Jack. "It's bigger than Manhattan." Their Varaxian escort guided the Pathfinder to a docking bay. As the humans prepared to disembark, Olivia reminded them of their briefing. "Remember, there are 37 species in the Council. Many have been spacefaring for thousands of years. We're the newcomers here. Be respectful, be observant, and, most importantly, be careful." The welcoming committee consisted of 5 species, none looking remotely human, the Varaxians they'd already met. Beside them stood the Tholians, crystalline beings who seemed to shimmer from within. There were also the furry short Xanthi, the gaseous mech who floated in containment suits, and the tall, slender Alani, whose skin changed colors as they spoke. "Welcome to the Centauri Nexus," said the lead Tholian, its voice somehow creating perfect English despite having no visible mouth. "I am Chief Scientist Xylos. You are the first humans to enter our sacred halls." The humans were given quarters and a day to rest before formal proceedings began. When they finally entered the council chamber, even Jack, who had seen combat in 3 wars, felt small. The room was cavernous with seating for thousands arranged in rising tiers. At the center sat a circular table where representatives from each member species had a seat. Earth was not offered a seat at that table. "Humans," announced a large being with ridged skin and tentacles for arms. "You stand before the Galactic Council as petitioners. I am Grand Arbiter Zoltan. We will evaluate your species' worthiness for provisional membership." The evaluation process was humiliating. Humans were measured, scanned, questioned, and tested. The Tholians took particular interest in studying their brains. "Interesting," said Xylos while examining the results of Olivia's brain scan. Your neural architecture is quite standard for carbon-based life forms. You appear to use only a small percentage of your brain's potential capacity. That's a common misconception, Olivia tried to explain. Humans actually use their entire brain, just not all at once for the same function. The Tholian made a sound like crystals tinkling against each other, their version of dismissive laughter. After a week of tests, the council rendered their judgment. Humans were classified as Class 3 sentients, physically capable but lacking any noteworthy mental abilities. They were granted provisional membership, which meant they could trade with other species but had limited access to advanced technologies. "This is ridiculous," Jack whispered to Olivia during the ceremony. "They're treating us like children." "We are children compared to them," she replied. "Some of these species had starships when our ancestors were still figuring out farming. The humans settled into their new role in galactic politics. They noticed something odd. Whenever they mentioned concepts like intuition, gut feelings, or the unexplained phenomena humans had documented throughout history, the council members reacted strangely. One evening, Jack was sharing stories with a Xanthi diplomat named Furl. He mentioned how his grandmother always knew when it was going to rain, even when forecasts said otherwise. Furl's fur stood on end. She could predict weather without instruments? "Just an old woman's intuition," Jack said with a shrug. The Xanthi excused himself quickly after that. Similar incidents happened to other human delegates. When Dr. Peter Kim mentioned how he'd once dreamed about his brother's accident the night before it happened, the Alani he was speaking with changed color from blue to white and left without a word. Dr. Olivia Grant began collecting these stories, noticing a pattern. The council species seemed to have no concept of psychic phenomena, not even as fiction or pseudoscience. 3 months into their stay, the human delegation was finally granted permission to send messages back to Earth. Olivia included a request for research on human brain activity during reported psychic experiences. It seemed like a long shot, but something about the council's reactions made her think they might have stumbled onto something important. What none of them realized was that this curiosity would soon catapult humanity from galactic nobodies to a force that would make the mighty Galactic Council tremble, quite literally, with fear and awe. 6 months after Earth joined the Galactic Council, a secret research facility hidden in the Nevada desert hummed with activity. The building looked like an ordinary government research station from the outside, but inside, Dr. Alan Murphy was making discoveries that would change humanity's place in the universe. "Look at these readings," Dr. Murphy said, pointing to a screen showing colorful brain scans. He was a tall man with thick glasses and messy brown hair that showed he cared more about science than appearance. Dr. Olivia Grant leaned closer to the screen. She had returned from the Centauri Nexus 2 months ago to help with this project. "The patterns are unlike anything in the Council's medical database," she said. After her time with the Galactic Council, Olivia had convinced the United Nations to fund research into human brain activity. The aliens' strange reactions to mentions of intuition and unexplained phenomena had sparked her curiosity. "We've tested over 10,000 volunteers," Alan explained. "About 1 in every 10,000 humans shows these unusual patterns when properly stimulated." The lab door opened, and a young woman with short red hair walked in. She wore a simple gray jumpsuit with sensors attached at various points. "Lisa, thanks for coming back," Alan greeted her. "How are you feeling today?" Lisa Powell smiled. "Ready to make more spoons bend, Dr. Murphy." At 19, Lisa was a college student studying music when researchers discovered she had the strongest readings they'd ever seen. She had dropped out temporarily to participate in the study. "We're going to try something different today," Olivia said, guiding Lisa to a chair in the center of the room. "Instead of metal objects, we've prepared cards with simple images." Lisa sat down and took a deep breath as researchers attached additional sensors to her head. In an adjoining room separated by one-way glass, a researcher named Paul held a stack of cards. He couldn't see Lisa and she couldn't see him. "Okay, Lisa," Alan said through an intercom. "Paul will look at a card. Try to tell us what image is on it." Lisa closed her eyes. The room fell silent, except for the soft beeping of monitoring equipment. "A star," she said after a moment. a 5-pointed star. In the other room, Paul looked shocked and held up the card showing a star. They went through 20 cards. Lisa correctly identified 17 of them. "This is actual telepathy," Olivia whispered, amazed. "Not tricks, not guessing, real mind-to-mind communication." Over the next weeks, they discovered Lisa could do more than read thoughts. Under controlled conditions, she could move small objects without touching them, sense emotions from people in other rooms, and even glimpse possible future events. And she wasn't alone. 7 other subjects showed similar abilities, though none as strong as Lisa's. Why hasn't the Council discovered this in other species? Olivia wondered one evening as she and Alan reviewed their findings. Alan had a theory. Earth has unusually high background radiation compared to most habitable planets. Combined with our strong magnetic field, it might have created evolutionary pressure that developed these abilities in humans. And the Council species evolved on worlds without these conditions, Olivia finished the thought. So they never developed psionic potential. They kept their findings classified. Revealing them prematurely could have serious diplomatic consequences. Meanwhile, human delegates in the Centauri Nexus were learning just how low their status truly was. Commander Jack Nelson, now Earth's military attaché to the Council, sat through another frustrating meeting where humans were denied access to advanced medical technology. "The request is denied," said the Dravek representative, a reptilian being with scaled skin and cold eyes. "Class 3 sentients must prove themselves worthy of such knowledge." After the meeting, Jack met with Frank Cooper, Earth's chief diplomat. "It's the same story every time," Frank complained. "We're treated like children who can't be trusted with the good toys. Some council members are worse than others," Jack noted. "The Dravek seem particularly against us." "They're an aggressive species," Frank explained. "They expanded their territory by force before joining the Council. Now they follow the rules, but barely." Back on Earth, the research team made a breakthrough when they discovered how to help subjects control their abilities. Lisa sat cross-legged in a chamber lined with special material that blocked outside mental noise. Across from her sat Daniel Gray, a former firefighter who had recently joined the program. "Focus on the connection between your minds," Alan instructed through a speaker. "Like a bridge made of light." Lisa and Daniel concentrated. Slowly, a small ball between them began to rise and spin in the air. They weren't just moving it, they were sharing control of it, their minds working together. "Amazing," Olivia said, watching through the glass. "Together, they're stronger than either one alone." That night, Olivia sent a highly encrypted message to Commander Nelson at the Centauri Nexus. It contained no details of their discoveries, just a simple question. What would happen if humans demonstrated abilities the Council believes impossible? Jack's reply came the next day. "It would change everything, but be careful. Some species might see it as a threat." Their caution proved wise. Unknown to them, the Dravek had been pushing for restrictions on human expansion. Several aggressive species were suggesting humans be confined to their solar system, calling them unpredictable primitives. Lisa's abilities grew stronger each day. She could now move objects weighing up to 5 pounds with her mind and could accurately read thoughts from a person in another building. Daniel showed different strengths. His telepathy was more powerful than his telekinesis, and he could create a kind of mental shield that even Lisa couldn't penetrate. "We need to understand the limits and potential before telling the world," Olivia told the research team. "And we need to be very careful about how we reveal this to the Council." Their careful planning was interrupted when an urgent message arrived from Jack. A Dravek warship had entered the Sol system, claiming to be conducting standard security assessments, but behaving suspiciously near Neptune. "They're testing our boundaries," Admiral Diane Keller told the emergency meeting of Earth's Defense Council, "seeing what they can get away with." When diplomatic requests for the Dravek to leave were ignored, Admiral Keller authorized a small fleet to intercept them. Everyone knew Earth ships were outmatched by Dravek technology. As tensions grew and conflict seemed inevitable, Olivia made a desperate call to Alan. "How ready are your subjects for field testing?" she asked. "Not ready, at all," he replied honestly. We've never tried their abilities outside the lab. We might not have a choice, Olivia said. The alternative could be the first interstellar war involving humans, one we can't win. The next day, Lisa, Daniel, and 5 other psionics with the strongest abilities boarded a military transport. They were headed to join Earth's flagship, the USS Defender, as it prepared to confront the Dravik intruders. No one knew if their powers would work in space, or if they would be strong enough to matter. But humanity needed every advantage it could get. The USS Defender hung in space near Neptune's orbit, facing the much larger Dravik warship. Admiral Diane Keller stood on the bridge, her gray hair pulled back tightly, and her face showing no fear despite the situation. Any response to our last message? She asked her communications officer. None, Admiral. They're ignoring all hails. The Dravik ship was massive, at least 5 times the size of Earth's largest vessel. Its hull was covered in weapon ports, all closed for now but ready to open. In a special chamber located deep within the Defender, Lisa Powell sat with Daniel Gray and 5 other psionics. The room had been quickly modified based on the Nevada Research Facility's design. I've never been in space before last week, said Kevin Wu, a 30-year-old math teacher who had recently discovered his abilities. Now I'm supposed to use mind powers to stop an alien warship? We all feel the same way, Lisa assured him. But we've been practicing and we're stronger together. Dr. Alan Murphy monitored their vital signs from a console nearby. Remember your training. Form the mental circle first, then extend your awareness outward. On the bridge, Admiral Keller received a disturbing report. The Dravik are powering up weapon systems, her tactical officer announced. They're targeting our engines. Raise shields, Keller ordered. But do not fire unless fired upon. A video transmission suddenly appeared on the main screen. A Dravik, commander with dark green scales and yellow eyes, looked down at them with obvious disdain. Human vessel, the alien said. You are interfering with a council security operation. Leave this area immediately or be destroyed. Admiral Keller stood, tall. This is Earth territory. You have no authority to conduct operations here without our permission. The Dravik made a sound like rocks scraping together, their version of laughter. Permission? From Class 3 primitives? We take what we want. Your Neptune has resources we need, and we will harvest them. The screen went dark. They're targeting weapons, the tactical officer reported, voice tense. Admiral Keller knew their shields wouldn't hold against a full Dravik assault. She pressed a button on her chair. Dr. Murphy, it's time. We have no other options. In the psionic chamber, the 7 humans sat in a circle, holding hands. They had practiced this formation for days, but never with a real target. Focus your minds together, Lisa said, her voice calm despite her racing heart. Feel the connection between us growing stronger. Each psionic closed their eyes. In their minds, they could see glowing lines of energy connecting them, forming a web of shared power. Now extend your awareness outside the ship, Daniel instructed. Reach for the Dravik vessel. Their shared consciousness stretched outward, passing through the hull of their own ship and across the void of space. It was harder than they expected, like pushing through thick mud. I can feel the minds on their ship, Kevin gasped. So alien, so cold. Don't focus on their minds, Lisa said. Focus on their technology, the energy systems like we practiced. The Dravik commander was moments away from giving the order to fire when something strange happened. The lights on his bridge flickered. Alarms began to sound. What is happening? He demanded. Power fluctuations across all systems. A Dravik officer reported, confused. Weapons going offline, engines failing. Something is interfering with our energy distribution network. Back on the Defender, the psionics strained with effort. Sweat poured down their faces as they maintained their mental grip on the alien ship systems. It's working, Dr. Murphy said into his communicator. Admiral, they're doing it. On both ships, Council observers watched in shock. The Galactic Council always sent representatives to monitor interactions between member species, especially when tensions were high. A Tholian scientist named Zix was aboard the Defender, while an Alani diplomat was on the Dravek vessel. The Tholian's crystalline body vibrated in disbelief as it watched the humans in the psionic chamber. Impossible, Zix whispered. They are, affecting technology through mental power alone. The Dravek commander roared in fury as his mighty warship floated helplessly, all weapons and propulsion systems disabled. What trickery is this? He demanded over emergency communications. What weapon are you using? Admiral Keller's face showed no emotion on the video link. No weapon. Just the natural abilities of humans you thought were primitive. The psionic team couldn't hold their concentration much longer. After 5 minutes of sustained effort, blood began to trickle from Lisa's nose. We need to stop, Daniel said, concerned. We've made our point. They slowly released their mental hold. The Dravek systems would remain disrupted for several more minutes, long enough to make their point. 2 hours later, 3 more Earth ships had arrived, along with 2 vessels from the Galactic Council sent to investigate the unusual situation. The Dravek warship, its systems now partially restored, was ordered by the Council to leave the Sol system immediately. In a conference room aboard the Defender, Admiral Keller met with Council representatives, including the Tholian scientist who had witnessed everything. Your species possesses abilities thought impossible or mythical, Zix said, its crystalline body still vibrating with agitation. This changes your classification entirely. We've only just begun to understand these abilities ourselves, Admiral Keller admitted. A small percentage of humans appear to have this potential. The Tholian's next words were transmitted to all Council ships and back to the Centauri Nexus. The humans have demonstrated psionic abilities of Class 1 level. This requires immediate full Council review. Within hours, news spread throughout galactic communication channels. The supposedly primitive humans possessed mental powers that no known species had developed. Footage from the Tholian observer showing the psionics at work was viewed by billions of beings across thousands of worlds. Back on Earth, Dr. Olivia Grant received an urgent message from the Council. Earth was ordered to send representatives to an emergency session, including the humans who had demonstrated these abilities. This is what we wanted, Alan said as they prepared Lisa, Daniel, and the others for the journey. To show the Council we deserve respect. Olivia wasn't so sure. We've certainly got their attention. The question now is whether they'll see us as equals or as threats. As the transport ship carrying the human delegation approached the slipgate that would take them to the Centauri Nexus, Commander Jack Nelson briefed the psionics on what to expect. The Council chamber will be filled with representatives from all 37 species, he explained. Many will be frightened by what you can do. Others will be fascinated or skeptical. Lisa looked out the viewport at the stars. What do we do if they try to detain us for study or worse? Jack's expression was grim. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. But if it does, well, you've already shown what humans are capable of when pushed. The ship entered the slipgate, vanishing in a flash of light. Their next destination, a council chamber where the fate of human-alien relations would be decided. The Centauri Nexus was in chaos when the human delegation arrived. News of human psionic abilities had spread across the galaxy, causing panic and excitement in equal measure. Species that had looked down on humans now watched them with new eyes, some filled with fear, others with wonder. Dr. Olivia Grant led the group through crowded hallways. Commander Jack Nelson walked beside her, with Lisa Powell, Daniel Gray, and the other 5 psionics following close behind. Council security forces surrounded them, though it wasn't clear if they were there to protect the humans or protect others from them. Everyone's staring at us, whispered Kevin Wu, looking uncomfortable. They're trying to figure out if we're going to read their minds, Daniel said with a small smile. Lisa walked with her head held high. She had spent the journey practicing her control, determined not to show any weakness before the Council. Remember what Dr. Murphy told us. Keep your mental shields up. Don't let their thoughts in unless necessary. The Grand Council Chamber was the largest room in the Nexus, with seating for thousands arranged in a huge circle. At the center was a raised platform, where important speakers addressed the assembly. Today, that platform would hold the human delegation. Every seat was filled. Representatives from all 37 council species had gathered for this historic session. The noise was overwhelming as they entered. Clicks, whistles, rumbles, and translator-assisted voices all blending together in a storm of sound. Grand Arbiter Zoltan, the massive tentacled being who led council sessions, raised his appendages. For silence. The room gradually quieted. "This emergency session will now begin," Zoltan's voice boomed. "We are here to address the matter of human psionic abilities previously thought impossible or mythical among sentient species. On a platform opposite the humans sat the Tholian High Command, 5 crystalline beings who led the Council's science division. The center Tholian, Archon Xenox, spoke first. "The events near the human planet Neptune have been verified by our observers," Xenox said, its voice like chimes in the wind. 7 humans using only their minds disabled a Class 4 Dravek warship. This demonstration of power changes everything we thought we knew about the capabilities of carbon-based life forms. The Dravek representative, a large reptilian with battle scars across his scales, hissed loudly. "We demand these humans be quarantined immediately. They are an unpredictable threat to galactic stability." More voices joined in, some agreeing with the Dravek, others defending the humans' right to develop their natural abilities. The chamber descended into noisy argument. Grand Arbiter Zoltan silenced them again. "The humans will now address the Council and explain the nature and extent of their abilities." Olivia stepped forward, her voice steady despite her nerves. "Honored representatives, we discovered these abilities recently ourselves. Our research suggests approximately 1 in 10,000 humans possesses psionic potential. We are still learning about these capabilities and how to control them." "Can all humans develop these powers?" asked a Xanthi representative, fur bristling with anxiety. "We don't believe so," Olivia answered. "Our research indicates it requires specific genetic factors." The Archon of the Tholians moved forward, crystal body glittering under the chamber lights. "We request permission to examine these humans, for scientific purposes only." Jack Nelson stepped forward. "With respect, Archon, these are citizens of Earth, not laboratory specimens. Any examinations would need to be voluntary and non-invasive." The Archon's crystalline form vibrated with what seemed like irritation. "You fail to understand the gravity of this situation. A species with your level of psionic ability requires careful study and possibly containment." The word hung in the air like a threat. Lisa felt Daniel tense beside her. "Containment?" Jack repeated, his voice hard. "You mean imprisonment?" The Dravek representative stood again. "The humans have hidden their true nature from us. Who knows what other secrets they keep? For the safety of all Council species, these psionics must be detained for study." Council security forces began moving toward the human platform. "This is not what we agreed to," Olivia protested, looking to the Grand Arbiter. "We came in good faith." The security forces, consisting of large, multi-limbed beings from a species known for their physical strength, surrounded the platform. One reached for Lisa's arm. Daniel reacted instinctively. He raised his hands and closed his eyes. A shimmering dome of energy suddenly appeared around the human group, pushing the security forces back. Gasps and cries of alarm echoed through the chamber. The security team tried to break through the barrier, using energy weapons and physical force, but nothing penetrated Daniel's shield. "Please remain calm," Olivia called out to the panicking assembly. "We mean no harm, but we will not be detained against our will." The Tholian Archon's crystal body was vibrating so intensely, it seemed in danger of shattering. "You see, they threaten us with their powers." Lisa stepped forward within the protective bubble. "We're not threatening anyone, we're defending ourselves." To prove her point, she focused her mind on the center of the chamber, where a massive stone stood, the Founding Stone, a symbolic relic present at the formation of the Galactic Council thousands of years ago. The stone was purely ceremonial now, but weighed several tons. With intense concentration, Lisa raised her hand. The Founding Stone began to tremble, then slowly, impossibly, it rose into the air. She held it there, floating 20 feet above the floor, turning it slowly for all to see. The chamber fell silent. Then, one by one, representatives of various species began to react. A Xanthi diplomat fainted, collapsing in a heap of fur. 3 Ilani delegates changed color rapidly from blue to white, their equivalent of extreme shock. A mech representative's containment suit began to malfunction, as the gaseous being inside lost consciousness. Even the mighty Dravek representative froze in place, eyes wide with disbelief. Most dramatically, the Tholian Archon's crystalline form suddenly cracked with a sound like breaking glass. The Archon didn't shatter completely, but slumped backward, caught by its fellow Tholians. This was the Tholian equivalent of fainting. Lisa gently lowered the stone back to its original position. The effort had drained her, but she remained standing, refusing to show weakness. Grand Arbiter Zoltan, one of the few council leaders who had maintained composure, spoke into the stunned silence. In all my 300 years serving this council, I have never witnessed such an ability. The ancient texts spoke of mind walkers who could bridge the physical and mental realms, but they were believed to be legends only. An elderly being at the back of the chamber slowly stood. This was the oldest member of the council, a Voroth sage named Elmar, rumored to be over 1,000 years old. All eyes turned to the ancient alien as it hobbled forward. The prophecy, Elmar said in a voice like dry leaves rustling, the mind walkers who would return to the galaxy when they were most needed. The texts say they would move mountains with thought alone and build bridges between minds. Elmar reached the center of the chamber and looked up at the humans with eyes that had seen millennia pass. The prophecy did not mention they would come from such a young species, the sage said, with what might have been a smile. But perhaps that is why they were overlooked for so long. The atmosphere in the chamber changed. Fear still lingered, but now curiosity and even reverence began to replace it. The Grand Arbiter looked from the ancient sage to the humans, then addressed the council. This session will adjourn for 3 hours while the inner circle discusses these developments. The human delegation will be treated as honored guests, not prisoners. As they were escorted from the chamber, Olivia whispered to Jack, "What just happened?" Jack watched the council representatives still staring at them, with new eyes. "I think we just went from primitives to potential prophets in less than 10 minutes. 3 weeks after the dramatic demonstration in the council chamber, everything had changed for humanity. The human delegation sat in a luxurious suite in the Centauri Nexus, no longer treated as primitive newcomers, but as honored guests. Lisa, Powell stood by the large window, watching ships from dozens of worlds move through space around the massive station. She still found it hard to believe how quickly their status had risen. "Remember when they wouldn't even let us into certain sections of the Nexus?" she asked, turning to Daniel Gray, who sat nearby. Daniel smiled. "Now they're practically begging us to visit their worlds." Commander Jack Nelson entered the room, followed by Dr. Olivia Grant. Both looked tired but pleased after another long day of meetings. "It's official," Jack announced. "Earth has been granted full council membership with special status as Guardians of the Mental Realm." Olivia set down a stack of data tablets on the table. "And the requests keep coming in. 17 more species want human teachers to visit their worlds to study whether their people might develop psionic abilities." Kevin Wu looked up from where he was practicing moving small objects in the air. "Can they? Develop abilities like ours, I mean?" Olivia shook her head. "The Tholians don't think so. Their theory matches Dr. Murphy's. Our abilities evolved because of Earth-specific conditions, but they want to try anyway." Back on Earth, Dr. Alan Murphy had established the Psionic Academy in the Colorado Mountains. Alien scientists arrived daily, eager to study and understand human mental potential. The former secret facility in Nevada had become too small for the growing number of humans discovering their abilities. The Academy's main hall was filled with new students, humans of all ages who had tested positive for psionic potential. Dr. Murphy addressed them from a podium. "Each of you represents something special," he told the group of 50 humans. "You will be the first official class of trained psionics. What you learn here will help shape humanity's future among the stars." In a nearby building, Alien scientists from 12 species set up laboratories. They worked alongside human researchers, sharing knowledge and technology that would have been unthinkable months earlier. A young Ilani scientist named Tala approached Dr. Murphy after his speech. Unlike most of her color-changing species, she showed excitement rather than fear around humans. "Doctor, we've analyzed the brain scans from your latest group," she said, her skin shifting to a pleased purple. "There are patterns we never noticed before. With your permission, we'd like to try a new testing method." "Of course," Murphy agreed. "That's why you're here, to help us understand ourselves better." In space, the Dravek and other hostile species had retreated from their aggressive postures toward Earth. The Dravek warships that once patrolled near human space now kept their distance, treating the solar system with cautious respect. On the Dravek homeworld, military leaders held an emergency meeting. "We cannot challenge them directly," said War Master Krull, the scarred reptilian who had represented the Dravek at the council meeting. "Their abilities make traditional warfare useless. Then we must find other ways to protect ourselves." "Another," Dravek suggested. "Perhaps technology that blocks psionic powers?" Krull made a dismissive gesture. "The Tholians already tried. Nothing they've created can fully block human abilities." For the first time in centuries, the proud Dravek faced a power they could not overcome through strength or technology. It was a humbling experience for a species that had expanded through conquest for generations. Back at the Centauri Nexus, Lisa Powell stood before the inner circle of the council. At 20, she had become the first human appointed to the prestigious group representing a newly formed Psionic Affairs Division. "The Academy has identified 200 more humans with psionic potential," she reported to the gathered alien leaders. "Training programs have begun on Earth, with more to follow." The Tholian representative, a new Archon named Vilox, spoke up. "And what guarantees do we have that these powers will not be used for conquest?" Lisa met the crystal being's gaze steadily. "The same guarantee you give that your ships won't be used for conquest. Our word, and the Council's oversight. We want to be partners, not rulers." Grand Arbiter Zoltan nodded his massive head. "Well said, Representative Powell. Now let us discuss the Joint Exploration Program." The exploration program was Commander Nelson's idea. Now Admiral Nelson, after his promotion, he led a fleet with ships from 12 different species, with human psionics serving as navigators, who could sense safe paths through dangerous space phenomena. "The nebula ahead has strong radiation fields," reported Lisa's friend Emma Johnson, the lead psionic on the flagship. "But I can feel a safe corridor about 20 degrees to starboard." "Admiral," Nelson nodded. "Take us through, pilot." The mixed crew of humans and aliens worked together smoothly. What had seemed impossible months ago was now reality. Species that once looked down on humans now valued their unique perspectives and abilities. On Mars, Dr. Olivia Grant made a discovery that would add another chapter to humanity's remarkable story. In a hidden canyon, a research team uncovered ruins of structures that were not human in origin. "These are at least 50,000 years old," she told Daniel Gray, who had joined the expedition. "And look at these symbols." The symbols carved into ancient stone matched patterns they had seen in human brain scans during psionic activity. "You think whoever built these had abilities like ours?" Daniel asked, running his hand over the ancient markings. "I think they might have visited Earth long ago," Olivia said. "They might even have influenced human evolution somehow." While the galaxy adjusted to humanity's new status, life continued to change. International tensions on Earth faded as countries worked together to manage their new place in galactic politics. Children born with psionic potential received special education to help them control their abilities and use them responsibly. At the Academy, Lisa worked with a group of young students, teaching them to form the mental circle that allowed psionics to combine their powers. "Focus on the connection between your minds," she instructed, just as she had been taught months earlier. "Feel how we're stronger together than apart." Later that evening, Lisa and Daniel stood on an observation platform, watching Earth rise. Over the lunar horizon, they had come to the new lunar embassy for a diplomatic function but had slipped away for a moment of peace. "Did you ever imagine any of this would happen when they first found out what you could do?" Daniel asked, Lisa shook her head. Never. I thought I'd go back to college after the tests. Now college seems small somehow. As they watched their home planet glowing blue in the blackness of space, Lisa felt something new stirring in her mind. She concentrated, focusing her ability inward instead of outward. For just a moment, her hand seemed to shimmer and become partly transparent. She could see the bones beneath her skin. "Did you see that?" she whispered, startled. Daniel nodded, eyes wide. "What did you just do?" "I'm not sure," Lisa said as her hand returned to normal. "But I think our abilities are still evolving. This might be just the beginning of what humans can do." The stars stretched out above them, countless worlds waiting to meet the species that had gone from galactic newcomers to legendary mind-walkers in less than a year. Whatever came next, humanity's place in the universe had forever changed.